Hi, I'm Brian, or Fat Dad from Fat Dad's Woodshop. Templates and template guides are just as good as a CNC router. Well, not really. They can't do everything that a CNC router can do, but they can do a lot of the things that a CNC router can do, and they can do it at a fraction of the cost. Fat Dad Woodshop. Now, don't get me wrong. A CNC router is great if you can afford one. They can do a lot of things that templates can't do. You can level a slab with it. You can do intricate engraving. You can also put a drag knife on it and cut out intricate pieces of leather. But there are a lot of things that a template can do. For instance, you can cut out all kinds of weird or curved shapes, and you can do this with a great deal of accuracy and repeatability. Template guides come in a few different configurations. Now, you can get a flush trim bit like this one, which doesn't actually require a guide, and it's got this ball bearing that keeps and runs along the side of the guide and flushes it exactly, it cuts the material out exactly the same size as the guide. And that's okay, but you're stuck with this particular type of bit, with this particular type of bearing, and that may not work out to your best advantage all the time. You can have a guide actually attached to your router base, and then you can use any kind of bit that you want to, and you can set the bit to any depth that you want it to be set at, which is one of the reasons that I definitely recommend a plunge router base when you use this kind of system. You can, aftermarket, you can get a template guide base that will attach to just about any kind of router base on the market. This one happens to be a Milescraft. And these guides are interchangeable. They come in different configurations, and you can attach aftermarket guides to the most of the bases. They also come with a centering guide to make sure that your template guide is perfectly centered inside your router base so that your bit will not contact the sides when you're routing. Now, one of the major things about this is both of these guides happen to be 5/8 in the outside, and they work with a 1/2 inch diameter bit, which means you have to account for the difference, and that's 1/8 of an inch, or about 3 millimeters. You'll have to consult with what you are using in order to decide what you want. But if you're using a guide, that means your template has to be 1/8 of an inch all total bigger than the hole that you intend to cut. It's just something that you have to keep in mind. Also, different guides have different lengths, as you can see. Some of them are made for templates that are 1/4 of an inch thick, and some of them are made for templates that are 1/2 an inch thick. So you have to understand what you're using, and your materials and your templates have to match up with each other. Now, templates can be purchased, and they usually are acrylic or something in the plastic nature. And usually you'll find those for more standard things like bow ties or different ready-made projects. Or you can make your own templates, and that's usually what I do. And in this case, I'm mounting a phone charger to something that I'm building for my daughter, and I need to be able to cut a recess that matches this phone charger. Now, I'm going to be using a template guide, which means the diameter of the hole for my template has to be 1/8 of an inch bigger than the hole that I want, which means the radius has to be 1/16 of an inch. So what I'm going to start by doing is just tracing the phone charger all the way around my template material. Now, if you happen to have a hole saw that's exactly the right size, that would be great, but I'm not going to be able to do that. Now, what I can do is either I can take and mark 1/16 of an inch all the way around this outside circle and then draw that with a compass, or I can take my compass and set that to 1/16 of an inch and trace this line making a 1/16 of an inch hole, that's our line that's a 1/16 of an inch bigger all the way around. When I cut this out, I'll drill a hole through the middle, and I will rough cut it with probably a saber saw or a jigsaw, and then I will sand it with a spindle sander down to the line to get a very accurate template. Now, that may seem like a lot of work, but I only have to make one of these, and I can make as many bases as I want afterwards, and I will keep this template. It's really a lot easier to make an accurate cut on something that's thin than it is to try and make an accurate cut on something that's thicker, like a 3/4 of an inch that I need to cut in for this base. And even if I'm only making one, a lot of times it's worth my time just to make a template. But if I'm making more than one, it's definitely worth my time to make a template. And now that I've got this rough cut, I've stayed well short of the line, and I'm going to sand to the line with this sander. And now that I've got this sanded down to the line, you can see that the hole in my jig is about 1/8 of an inch total bigger around than what I want to inset. And that leaves about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around here. So now I've got to do is I've got to temporarily glue this to the workpiece. And if you need to know about temporary gluing, you can look at the temporary gluing video that I've made earlier. Glued these two templates to a project that I'm working on. I temporarily glued it. And I'm going to use this flush trim bit on the outside of these templates in order to true them up. Now, to set the depth of my router cut, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a piece of wood that's the depth that I want to cut, plus my my template material, and I'm going to set the whole thing on top of that, and then I'm going to drop my bit till it touches the deck. Then I'm going to lock this plunge in place, and up here I'm going to drop down my plunge stop and lock that in place so it's ready to go. Then I can unlock my plunge, and most plunge routers have this little step wheel so that you can set it so that you can take your cut in shallow passes before you get down to your final depth. Brian, or Fat Dad from Fat Dad's Woodshop. Templates and template guides are just as good as a Fat Dad Woodshop.